My bad. Hold on. I don't even know what I said. I was just flowing.
You read the sound.
What's up, guys? We fucked up.
Badly.
Sorry, we messed up. Sorry for my language, but this is episode 2. We're learning, we're growing. Like we said in our trailer, this is for all of us to learn, grow. We want you guys to see our successes and failures, and I think this is, if not a failure, it's a learning lesson. We had a great interview. Great person come in, give us some valuable content, not only for us, but for all of you guys. And we messed it up, not in the sense that, anything with the person or us. We just had some technical difficulties, which Eddie can tell you a little bit more about.
Yeah, so for this podcast, we set up in a slightly different location, but we basically did everything we did on the last one.
Right.
We had no doubt that it was going to work. This time it was my time to interview and get, in front of the camera. It was a computer error. It was a camera not focusing. We lost a little bit of footage, as you will see. But, I think what we've lost doesn't actually take away from anything valuable that that Luis, gave. And, hopefully you guys still enjoy this.
Right.
And we'll just, live and learn.
Yeah, and to be fair, we didn't want to, I guess, we all put time into this, Luis especially, taking time out of his busy day to come with us and chat with us and bring this insightful content and valuable stories and lessons to you guys. We wanted his voice to be heard, and he has a lot of amazing things to say, so we didn't want you guys to lose out of that. So yeah, like I said, we lived, we learned, shit happens. This is the point of us making these videos, to show the world, show you guys that it's not easy, that it takes time, you will mess up, you will keep going, it doesn't matter. It's episode 2. We got, a million more episodes to do.
Hey.
So, what up? We failed. We gonna keep going. But yeah, please listen to the rest of the interview if you guys don't want to watch it, because it might be zoomed on fucking Eddie's foot for the rest of the interview, or the audio might be kind of choppy. We understand, but there's a podcast. Click on the link. You guys can listen to it while you're driving home, while you're working out, whatever. Luis has some amazing things to say.
And if anything else, go check the description below and follow the guy, because he actually does give a lot of insight. He's very active on Instagram. That's where I really connect with him and stuff. So I wouldn't be missing out on his content, because he does put out a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. So, more videos to come. Thank you guys for understanding. Deuces.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Ordinary Freaks podcast. I'm your co-host, Eddie Juarez, and today I have the great pleasure to introduce to you guys a business entrepreneur, former breakdancer, and a fellow introvert, my good friend Luis Vazquez. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I was obviously we were speaking earlier, but I've been wanting to kick it with you for a while, right?
Yeah.
I met you a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Through our good buddy Megan. Shout out to Mike. But yeah, I was like, man, I'm really trying to hang out with them, just try to pick your brain and stuff like that. But I'm really happy that this, came through and stuff, and we're doing this and shit. I'm really happy. But yeah, I kind of want to start, getting to know you a little better, and just kind of getting a full story out of you, and just how about we start with your early years? Like, how were you as a kid? Where did you grow up and stuff?
Sure, yeah. So I was born here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Born to Mexican immigrant parents. My family's from Mexico City, and my mom's side's from Chihuahua. But I'm a hood rat, man. Like I'm one of those guys who grew up on the street, like on the south side. I grew up on the north side though too, so I went to school on the north side, and I lived on the south side, so I can channel switch too. So,
Right.
yeah.
So were they like, everybody's like, oh, that's a Mexican kid that's like from the south side, like, watch out, you know?
Yeah, no, they would always be testing me. So I got into a lot of fights growing up
Yeah, that's
on the north side, and yeah, man, like just a lot of fights. But the thing is, like a lot of my older friends, like long time friends, they're all black people. So I don't feel uncomfortable in either environment.
right.
Growing up, a lot of people from the north side were scared to come to the south side because they said they were we were crazy, like we'd shank them. And the opposite was true too, right? Where a lot of Mexicans were scared, or a lot of Latinos were scared to go to the north side because they were like, no, you get shot over there. So I went to school every day, crossing the bridge, going to, during the day I was over there, during the night I was over here. So
What school did you go to?
I went to Milwaukee School of Languages. It used to be called Wilbur Wright back in the day, but it's on like 84th and Burbank.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tight. So how about like high school years? Were you still up in the north side, or were you just more in the south side? Or was
So I went to MSL, Milwaukee School of Languages. It was middle school and high school,
Oh, cool.
and I went there freshman year, but I got kicked out from there. And then I went to Hamilton High School, and I went there for a couple of years, and then I moved to Texas. I went to Timberview, which was like the second. It was in Arlington, Texas, and that was the second biggest school in Texas at the time. So it was like way different.
Culture shock, right? Cause
I mean, it's huge, bro. It's super huge. Like, okay, you know how like here at MPS you go to lunch and you just got one line. Over there they had multiple lines. They had a vegetarian line, they had a Mexican line, they had an Italian line, they had an American sandwich line, and then all the way at the end for the people with some bread, they had McDonald's line. Like they had McDonald's up in that Timberview.
Yeah, so they had that budget line, right?
Yeah.
They had a big budget.
So we would all like have different times for lunch or whatever, but it was just a big difference. Like, holy mom. Yeah.
Man, that's nuts. Yeah, I mean, obviously you see that in the movies, right? And you're like, man, those are big schools. Well, like, were you always late to class then? Or was it like, was that like a convenient thing? Or was it
Man, I wasn't a good student, bro. Like, dude, depends on who this podcast is for, but I was not the best student. No, I was someone who used to skip. I used to like, sometimes I wouldn't go to school, sometimes I would. I was selective on the classes I would go to, stuff like that. But that school was big enough where you could skip and like they wouldn't be able to find you. If you
right, yeah,
you could be like way on the other building, or they have multiple buildings too. So it was fun though. It was a good experience.
That's awesome. So from there, obviously moving from, states and, switching, schools, obviously that kind of influenced you in a way, right? Like, did you felt like you kind of had a grasp in what you wanted to do right after that? Like, did you think that school kind of prepared you, or were you always kind of like, I'm gonna do my own thing? Or?
Yeah, I was more. I've always been I'm gonna do my own thing kind of a deal. I do recognize. I think that, like in retrospect, if I look at my life, like I don't have friends that are consistent in my life. Like I've always been kind of a lone wolf. My family calls me an elusive lone wolf of the family. Because I kind of just do my own thing, and I have lots of really good friends. I have a lot of acquaintances, and everyone I know feels close to me, yet they very rarely kick it with me because I'm always by myself doing my thing.
Right.
But when they do kick it with me, I'm fully present and stuff. But I think one thing that I learned was that just changing your environment at such a young age, like, helps you adapt so quickly. Like, it just comes natural, and a lot of little kids, they trip when their parents move to another school or another state, or they
Right.
transition, and those are all opportunities to like build this adaptation muscle to say like, I'm gonna just survive in whatever environment I get thrown into. And so I guess if I look at that, I think that's always been something that I've been able to leverage in whatever I wanted to do. So anytime I wanted to pivot directions in my life, I wasn't scared to be in an environment that I wasn't familiar with, and
Right.
eventually knowing that I'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of similar to my story in a way, where like coming from Mexico, and I only did like a year like in the South Side in middle school, and then one of my friends was going to Lincoln Center of the Arts, which is like a middle school like downtown, like near Brady and stuff. So for me, I was like, at first I was like, I just want to hang out with my friend, because that's like one friend I had, right? Like I didn't know nobody, didn't know the language. So I was like, I just kind of want to stick to this guy. And from there, ever since then, I was just so like infused in like, I want to go to that side, or like I want to travel to school, and rather than staying in my neighborhood, because like you obviously what the conditions are, right? Like, and I mean like the extended family that I was living in at the time were doing no good, like they weren't really influencing me in any positive way whatsoever. Like they weren't really around anyway, so it was just kind of like, I don't mess with you guys don't mess with me. Like it was kind of that whole like, silent deal that we had. But yeah, like ever since then, like it was like high school, I went to Riverside. That was a whole different thing, right? Because it's kind of like you're still on the east side, but there's a lot, like you're basically a minority kind of, right? Like
A lot of diversity.
because there's just a lot of diverse. You're not just a full, in a room full of Mexicans or Latinos. You're kind of like with all cultures and stuff, which is like it opens up your mind to like possibilities.
Yep.
Yeah, man. That's really awesome that you like are able to be aware and like recognize that you're like, yeah, I am alone, but I prefer that way because I choose to live my life a certain way.
Yeah.
So and then you cater to those that obviously support you and have love for you throughout the years and stuff. Because a lot of people I feel like don't do that. Like especially now in this era, I feel like oh yeah, that was my friend, or like, oh yeah, I don't talk to him no more, like you kind of get that sometimes. They're like, oh, you stranger, like we never used to say stranger back then, now it's like, oh hey, what's up, stranger, like, and I don't know, I always thought that was a little weird and stuff. But let's talk about maybe a little more, fast forward a little bit. What made you start kind of going into the whole breakdancing scene? Because I know you did that kind of early on, right? So like, what was the influence there? Like,
it was so the way I got into breakdancing was a friend invited me to a session that they had. Up until that point, I didn't even know what breakdancing was, really, to be honest. Like, actually, I mean, I did know what breakdancing was, but I didn't know it was like people actually did that kind of a deal, like in Milwaukee. And I was 17 at the time, and my friend invited me, and I went there, and I saw people dancing and stuff, and I started out as a popper, so it's different from like spinning on your head and stuff like that. But it was challenging enough to the point where I have this personality where if I feel like there's something challenging enough, and I decide that I'm going to master it or I'm going to conquer it, like I will be obsessive about it. Like I will invest all my time and energy into it. And so with breakdancing, that's how it was. It was so challenging to me, but it was also, I think, with time, it became kind of a therapy for me, where it was just when the beat was, playing and I was there dancing, especially when I turned into a break dancer, like, doing my moves, stuff like that, like just for those 30, 40 seconds, just like this piece that you have to be fully present. Like you can't be thinking about the past, you can't be thinking about the future, you can't be stressing about anything, but you just gotta be. And you gotta be in tune with the music and with the beat and know what your body can do and what it can't do. And so there's like this harmony that happens that those 30, 40 seconds of peace became so addicting to me. And I just reveled in it for a few years. I eventually did get paid for breakdancing and stuff like that. But I only danced from the age of like serious 19 to 21. Like I was practicing late, when I turned 18, I was still practicing, but then I went to my first maybe battle or competition when I was like 18 and a half.
Where was that held?
In Atlanta.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, it was in Atlanta. Yeah, and I've been all around too to compete or to do shows and stuff. So that was another aspect that during that time I was traveling to different cities and stuff, and I saw how diverse the hip hop scene was, the underground hip hop scene, not the mainstream stuff, but the underground. And like we all had this mutual respect and connection through like this art form. And that was another aspect that just added on to this whole like diversity, and just recognizing that, because once you get out of your bubble, once you get out of your culture, once you get out of your surroundings or whatever you're comfortable with, you start to see that like all these stereotypes that you have about people, or all these fears that we have are, well, they're justified because you've never been outside of your bubble. That's one, right? Because a lot of people have never been outside of Milwaukee. But what you start to see is that, you know what, bad is across the board. No matter what color you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what gender, no matter what family you come from. And good is the same thing. You'll find good and bad everywhere. Like, so, you know, there's that saying that says that the grass is greener on the other side. Well, you know, there's weeds there too.
Right, yeah. I mean,
but
yeah, it's definitely true. So, I mean, it's really interesting to me because I'm also very in love with music and all about hip hop and stuff. You know, I don't know if you know, but like I collect vinyl and stuff. So for me, like getting away, kind of like you did, it was more in the search, right? You gotta find this record, and in that sense, you know, spending hours and hours in a dusty, you know, garage or anywhere you can find vinyl that like you're like, oh yeah, like I gotta get that. You lose yourself like in that moment, right? You like pouring yourself in, like, and not in the same sense, because you're like obviously you're like exerting energy and like you're doing all this crazy stuff, right? I'm just kind of like going like this, but you're kind of really focused in the moment, because like sometimes, you know, when you're doing it, you could, if you're thinking about something else, you might miss a record that you're not necessarily looking for.
Yeah.
But it was there, right? So I've gone to a lot of places where, you know, if I'm really into it, I'll spend like a whole day sitting and just kind of looking at stuff. Even if I like, you know, the album cover is interesting to me, I'll just look at it and read and stuff. Like that was, instead of like me reading books, that was like a way for me to start like learning about music production.
Yeah.
You know, as an outsider, kind of looking in through like history and records, right? So, and then like I did a lot of art too. Like I won't say, but like I used to do a little, you know, a little this, a little that, you know. So
little scribbles here and there.
a little, yeah, something on the wall with a crayon, right? So yeah, I mean, once you're in the moment, like you're fully present.
Yeah.
Like I had plenty close calls where, you know, like I don't remember, but like, you know, the guys I used to kick it with were like, dude, like, you know, let's go, whatever. And like, I'm like, I didn't even think about, I'm just like, all I'm thinking about is like, I gotta finish this. And you're done, you look back, you know, and they're like, you know, let's go. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's book it. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do, jump the fence, whatever. But, you know, it's so true that it's, you know, whatever that thing is that you grasp on, either early on or, you know, throughout the years, like whatever that thing is, or those interests, or those hobbies, you know, I mean, this should, first of all, hopefully be positive in a way.
Yeah.
But like yours, like it should be engaging enough to like, it makes you do things outside of your comfort zone, where like it gets you to places, right? Like they got you to the competitions, they got you to some paid gigs at one point, right? Just and none of this would have happened if you wouldn't have just stuck with it and like really love and chase that, you know, adrenaline high, or that mental clearness that we were talking about. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to talk about your previous endeavor, because since you haven't really mentioned that to me. You were a full stack developer, right? A web developer.
Yep.
So what does that entail for the people that might not know?
A full stack developer is so in programming you have people who focus on what we call like the front end development, which is kind of what you see on websites, like the colors, the aesthetics. And then you have the back end, which is all the nerdy logic stuff where you don't see that. And then you also have the database stuff, which is where all the stuff gets stored. So like when you go into Amazon, they have a database with all of your information. Same thing with Facebook, everywhere. So a full stack developer is someone who can do all of it.
Right.
So we have developers that are only front end, and so they work closely with designers. Then you have back end developers. They work more with like business people, and then you have like database developers, which they work more with tech people to and so a full stack developer, like we're just a powerhouse as far as we can build an application from scratch to finish without anyone else. So that's what a full stack developer is pretty much.
Cool. So I know you were doing that for quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Like, how that came about? Like, did you go to school for that? Did you where did that interest started coming from? Because and I don't know how early this was, but for me, like, I don't even think I had internet at the house till like 2010. So like it was one of those things where.
So the struggle.
Yeah, it was a struggle, man. Like it was actually funny ass story. It was one of my first phones. It was a Sony Ericsson flip phone, like the ones that had the Walkman. I thought I was shit, obviously, because they had the Walkman. And we went to Vegas. I think it was like the first trip ever, and that was like the only way I could get like web, right? And like this is like the crappy web browser where like, you check your Yahoo or whatever, like whatever. It was like Gauge or something. And on the way, I was so bored because this is like a 32-hour drive. And then I'm in the back, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I just started going on the web, and I was like, dude, like I've never really seen it. Like obviously you're like don't go on the browsers because that ate your data up and stuff like that. And coming back, I had a $500 bill from me browsing just random ass stuff. Like I was just like going to games and like playing little game things, and I didn't know better because I was like 16, 17. I had like first phone, so yeah, like that was crazy. My parents definitely scolded me for that one. Kicked my ass. Made me work for my dad. Like he made me pick up trash for 2 months.
Yeah, no. So I'm the same way. We didn't have a computer at home. We didn't have internet, nothing like that. I didn't, to be honest, like when I first started like working for a computer company, like it was a Fortune 500 company too, and I didn't even know what that was at the time. But it was, I didn't even know how to Google anything. Like I got that job because of someone I knew and because they just really liked me. Like it was only because I did really well in the interview. But I didn't even know how to Google what that was. I didn't know what Yahoo, like I didn't even have an email address. Like I had a phone. So I've always had work. So I started working when I was like 13, 14. And I had my first phone when I was like 15 maybe. But I had a phone during a time when no one else had a phone. So like, it really was kind of useless. Like I could only talk to like on it with like girls after like 9 or 10
Yeah,
p.m.
you gotta get the 9 after 9 p.m.
It was
all my older millennials.
Yeah, they would like sneak. I remember they would like sneak and like when they would sneak in the cordless phone into the room and like talk when their parents were asleep. And I was like, but they knew they could call me after 10, So it was perfect because their parents would be sleeping and so that's how I used my phone. But it wasn't really like, we would use it during the day, or text messaging was not a thing when I was growing up either.
Yeah, that thing was so expensive back then.
I know, well, not only that, but no one else had a phone during my age, kind of like, so that didn't start happening until people started going to college, I think. But with full stack development, when I was breakdancing, I was involved with this girl, and things were getting kind of serious, and so I was traveling quite a bit, and it was kind of like strenuous on our relationship. So she was like, "What? Get a job here, get a job here. I don't like that you travel so much and everything." Rightfully so, because I was kind of just doing crazy stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up getting this job that I hated, and I hated it so much that I was like, man, there has to, like, it was just very simple task stuff. But I remember being in this office and no one was like me, man. Like, I was from the hood, I dressed different. Like, they made me dress up, which I really don't like to do. And then I just looked different, everything, man. These were like, I was working with nothing but, you know, I don't know if I can say it like this, but like a lot of white people, older white people who just wanted to talk about golf and politics. Like, two things that I had no clue about either, right? So out of that, like, the guy who was supposed to be training me didn't want to train me, they didn't like me, stuff like that. So what I did was, I went to the library, got this book. This is the other thing. Back in the day, when I learned how to code, there weren't like online coding schools or anything like that. So I went to the library, got a book, and I said, I'm going to automate my job. Like, there has to be an easier way to do what I'm doing. And so I ended up learning how to script, and that was like my first time coding, and I scripted my work. And then what I started doing is I went to other departments outside of my department, and I started making friends with everyone. And then during the holiday party or the Christmas party, I remember doing like a break-in set, and like, then everybody knew who I was.
Yeah,
like, everybody wanted to be my friend after that. Like,
yeah,
so,
bet you blew brains out.
so after that, like, I'm over here making friends, and little by little, I started to just learn like how that whole business unit worked. But in the meanwhile too, at home, I like bought my first laptop, and I learned how to code, and I was just coding, and it's just like, I remember thinking, like, I heard about someone like making so much money off of writing code. I was like, what? Like, people get paid that much for doing this? Like, sitting on their butt? Like, up until then, I had only worked at like a foundry and like factories, only like
right, general labor stuff.
Yeah. I was like, I did everything what Mexicans do: landscaping, painting. Like, my dad's a carpenter, so I come from a carpenter family too. So
Shout out.
so it's I remember thinking, like, people get paid to just sit down and do this, and I said, I gotta learn how to code. So I did that, and I remember in the process of that, then I found out there was people who would like get paid to not even go into an office, that they would just stay at home.
Right.
And that was just like, what? How does that even happen? So I made it a personal goal. I said, that's gonna be me. And so like, lo and behold, like 2 or 3 years later, that was me. I was working from home, programming, and I remember getting let go from 2 companies, like back to back, from like 1 year to another year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, like, man, you know what? Maybe I'm just not a good programmer, a good developer, right? Because I didn't go to college, I didn't, have a degree and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started my business. And I failed in my business for like the first 3 to 6 months, man. Like, I was selling crappy projects, man. My first project was, I sold it for $150, man, in a Burger King sandwich. That's how, like...
Why the Burger King sandwich?
Because that's what he offered me when he wanted to pay me. So we met at Burger King. Like,
were you in your PK? Or?
Yeah, we were near there and whatever. I was like, man, so that was my first project. My second project was for $1,200, and then, which was worth way more than that. And then my third project was for $600. And then I was like, you know what? This sucks, man. Like, what is going on here? And I remembered something that I learned when I was a breakdancer. That in the breakdancing world, we have this saying that says you can imitate, but you can never duplicate.
Right.
And so that means that, you know what? You can try to bite my move, which means copy for us b-boys. Like, you can try to bite and then you try to copy and look like me and everything, but you will never be me, because my body is different. The way I move, the way I think, my creativity, everything is different about me.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can look like me, but you will never be me. And so in the b-boy world, if you win a battle off of biting, even if you win the battle, everybody loses respect for you.
Right.
Like,
yes.
everybody does. And so if you lose, but you were original, you actually gain more respect for trying something different. And so I remember thinking about that. I said, look, I had been in the corporate world for so long, so that when I started my business, I was trying to run my business like I was in the corporate world. I said, that's not me. That's why I got let go through two times in a row. And so I said, I'm gonna just build it the way I am. So if I'm gonna fail with dignity and in my own style. And so then I took a month off and I restructured everything, and I said, I'm gonna make all these different decisions according to who I am. And then I sold my 4th project for $40,000.
Wow.
And it was a profitable business since then. I never sold a project under $12,000 probably.
That's awesome.
So I did that business for 5 years before I called it quits.
So, obviously, for the people that don't really know you, you have a website now, right?
Yeah.
You have your new business that we're going to be talking about in just a little while. But there's an article there that made me smile. So I was like, man, no wonder we get along, right? Because it was the one that you basically gave all your money away.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that truly interesting because obviously, now that I've, started to get to know you better, it was something that I was like, yeah, no brainer him starting a new, business, new model, new way of moving. But the way you did that, I was just like, damn, that takes balls, So, let's get into that story because I want everybody to hear why you gave all your money away and started this new endeavor.
Yeah, so every year I try to do something audacious. And it just happened to be that when I was in Orlando, I went to Orlando to give a talk there. That another speaker, which was a good friend of mine, he gave a talk about being audacious. Mm-hmm. And he gave it from the context of being audacious in business. I think I took it to a whole nother level. But when I got back from that talk, I was so inspired by it. I was like, you know what? It's been a long, I have gotten comfortable running this application development business because I was to the point where I only had to sell 2 or 3 projects a year, and I was making enough money to take half of the year off and travel. So I had done that already 2 or 3 years in a row, and I said to myself, I'm so comfortable, right? It's been a long time since I've done something quote unquote audacious.
Right.
And I said, okay, well, let me try to do that. So I got back home, came back to Milwaukee, and I took a week, setting my goals, and and I even have a unique process on how to set goals and stuff. But what I determined was, I said, okay, my first thing was okay, well, I'll just start a new business. That's what I said, I'll just start a new business. Right. That's audacious, right? I'm just gonna, and then I was like, no, I know, I'm confident that I could do that and real comfortable because I have funds and money, savings and stuff, and I can always bounce back to this other one. And then I was like, oh man, so I was like, how can I up the ante? And so I said, well, I'll quit my freelance business too. I'll quit the business that I'm doing and just do this. And then a day would pass by and I was like, nah, I'm still faking myself out, man. I'm still trying to fool myself. I can fool everybody except for me, right? And so I was like,
yeah, because for the unexperienced, you obviously already have went through trials and tribulations of how to get a business going, how to start getting that revenue up, right? So you already have all this background and you could do that again.
Yeah.
But for myself, you saying I'm gonna start a completely business and quitting, I'm like, damn, he's doing a 180. That's crazy.
Right. So I had to match the level I was at, right? So I said, you know what? And the more I started, because I started writing articles earlier that year, or maybe a few months before that. Mm-hmm. And so I have readers and I get emails and stuff, and a lot of people who meet me met me when I was at that time, they're they're really impressed and what, you get to do this and you do that and you travel and you do it's you're living a dream kind of a deal, right? And then I'm like, yeah, but what are you gonna do? Like, or what do you have? Well, I want to do this, I want to do that. I was like, when are you gonna start? Or like, when are you gonna launch? Or when are you gonna, And they're like, oh, well, it's because I'm just waiting for a little bit more money. Or, oh no, it's because I'm just waiting to get connected more. Or I'm gonna wait till go to school for this one thing. And I'm like, that's BS, man. Like, that's just avoiding it. That's creative avoidance, right? You're just creatively avoiding, like, starting because you're scared of failure. So I said to myself, so the two common things that I've heard people use as obstacles was they either didn't have enough to start with, or they didn't know how to do things, or they didn't know someone. Like, so two things, what they had or who they know, or they didn't know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm, from there, I started saying, I was like, okay, so what do I believe about these two things? And I believe that, principle number one is that who you are will take you further than what you can do today. So it doesn't matter, like, the moment that you decide that you're a b-boy, or the moment that you decide I'm a podcast guy, is just a matter of time before your actions and the results are going to catch up to that mentality, to who you are. And so a lot of people, when they start projects, they obsess over the how-tos because it's easy to hide in the technical details, right? And what they're hiding from is becoming that person. And so then the natural question is, who are we, right? Like, who are we in reality? And there's a scripture in the Bible that says that as a man thinketh, so he is. And so for me, we are nothing other than our thoughts. So whatever consumes your mind, that's exactly who you are. And most people attach their identity to what they do. And so this is why everyone loves to say, what do you do for a living? Because they're trying to categorize you. They're trying to see, who are you, right? So it makes sense that we identify that. But people think that they are what they do. And this is might be a little confusing, so think about it. But in reality, they do what they do because of who they are. So it's the opposite, it's the reverse. Right. And so when you take on a project, when you're trying to improve, you're working on a goal, 80% of your time should be spent on shifting paradigms, on learning how to think like a person who is that way. And then what you do, or how to do things, will come intuitively. It will come naturally, and you won't have to feel like it goes against your nature. And so most people, what they do is they start with the how-tos, and they eventually give up because, you know what? The how-tos, they're really trying to imitate someone that they're not. Right? And again, you can imitate, but you can never duplicate.
Right.
And so that's principle number one. Principle number two is, it's very simple, right? That what you have and who you know is more than enough to start. So that's where the real work is. The real creative work is managing the resources that are available to you in a way that helps you take that next step one at a time. And so that's why I gave all my money away. I said, I will put my money where my mouth's at, and I will say, I will give away all my money, and I have screenshots, I have proof that, I have $20 to my name, all my money away into a whole different industry with people I didn't know, doing something that was foreign to me. And I believe in those two principles so much that I know that it's just a matter of time before I succeed again. Mm-hmm. But this time the difference between, because I've done this many times and many other people have done it many times, but the difference now is that I'm paying attention now, right? Like before it was just survival mode, but now I'm paying attention and I'm documenting and I'm learning. And so I believe that when I speak now at a conference, at an event, or when I give advice, my words are way more heavier than the person who hasn't done that, right? And so you can hear two people say the same thing, and one person's sentence would resonate.
It just cuts through,
because it has the full force of experience behind it. Right?
Yeah, because there's some things that you're like, I'm a big fan of listening to podcasts or interviews and stuff like that. Like, that's what I spent 80% of my time now. Like, I do listen to a lot of music, but like a lot of the time, especially like when I'm at work, like sometimes you just kind of gotta like drown everything else with another person's advice or experiences, and like, you might be zoned out for 40 minutes, and as soon as they said that one thing, you're like, oh crap, now I gotta like, go back and like check it out fully to like really grasp it.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, having that, basically speaking your truth, right? Because like you said, it's backed by years or by just work.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what defines, if you want to be at point B and you're at point A or not even at point A yet because you don't have your mindset right, once you get there, the work really is what you put into it. It's what really makes you an experience, or an expert or whatever they want to put, so.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't have the guts to put those 10,000 hours in or whatever, right? Whatever that, the 10,000 hour quote. Yeah, man. I mean, that's really crazy that, and I mean, from someone probably listen to this, it's probably very audacious. Like, they were like, oh, this guy's, audacious, like saying like, oh yeah, I'm traveling the world a couple times, like taking off half a year. I want to do something different, right? Like for them, like they basically made it. So, obviously now hearing this, I probably understand a little better.
Yeah.
That it does take a lot of work. Yeah, I do say those things because I do believe in myself that much, right? That there's not like an if. You're like, I know I'm gonna do it. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
That's fire. I want to hit you up with some last questions before we truly wrap this up.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you here all day. But one of the good questions that we always ask here is, what advice will you give someone going into their junior or senior year of high school, or even past that, that they don't really know what their next move is going to be?
Yeah, man. So I would say this is funny because I just had this conversation last night with somebody who's in school, that you have to be 110% honest with you. Like, you can fool your mom, you can fool your dad, you can fool your siblings, you can fool your friends, but you can't fool yourself. And so the moment that you fool yourself and that you lie to yourself is a moment that you just screwed yourself over. And so to put that into context means you have to understand who you are to make decisions confidently in your future. So, for example, I made a decision not to go to school. At some point, I tried to go to school, and right away, within the first 2 weeks, I said, this isn't for me. But I also recognized in myself that I do have an obsessive nature, and I am willing to sacrifice things for the things that I want to do. Now let's shift to my brother, right? I have a brother who, at some point, he wanted to quit UWM.
He's older, right?
He's younger than me. Yeah, he's a younger brother. And he says, I want to quit UWM, and I think I just want to take a few years off, and I'll go back. And I said, he said, or maybe I'll just get a job, and I'll work my way up. I said, bro, you can try to lie, but you can't lie to me. I know you. And he's like, well, I can do that, right? And then I was like, go ahead and do it, but in 2 years, you're going to see that. Because you like to party too much. You like to drink too much. You like to hang out with you put your friends before your responsibilities, right? And so you have not proven to yourself or to, that you have that discipline. So I said the much better strategy is this. Leave the 4-year degree, go to a technical college, get your associate's degree where they give you hands-on stuff. And then what happens is, at least when you go knocking on doors for a job, you have a certification, you have a degree that will speak for your experience, right? But I know that I'm a rare breed in the fact that I was willing to go to a library and read a book at, all times of the night. I didn't drink for 7 years. I didn't go out for a long time or anything. Mm-hmm. And so that's what people don't see. But that's not a lot of people are willing to do the sacrifice. But I was honest with myself and I knew.
Right.
And my brother, he did come around. He was like, no, you're right. And so he did that. And now he's a application developer at Jockey, right, in Kenosha. So he graduated. He did something. He owns a house. He bought a house, everything, and but that all has come from simply being honest with yourself. Like you can fool everybody except for yourself, but when you do fool yourself, you're screwing yourself up.
Self-awareness.
Yeah, pretty much.
A funky one, maybe hard one.
Yeah.
Tacos or burgers?
Tacos every time.
Best advice you've gotten, and who has given you that advice?
The best advice I've gotten, man. Oh man, that's tough, man. Oh man. I've never got no one specifically told me this.
Right, no one has set you down, or
Huh?
has anybody that set you down or nothing?
No. But this. I spend a lot of time in books, man. So they say that you're the average of the 5 people you hang out the most with. Well, that's tough for me because I barely hang out with anybody. But I do hang out with people in books. Like I hang out with authors. I hang out with ideas and stuff like that. And there's a guy. His name is Zig Ziglar. It's legendary motivational speaker. They call him the father of podcasts, actually.
Oh, really?
He's the first speaker to put the audio tapes. He's the first guy. So it's Zig Ziglar. So look him up if you want. But he is such a good motivational speaker. But he was the first one to put them into audio tapes and say, listen to these when you're driving, and your life is going to be changed. But he has this one quote that says that if you help enough other people get what they want, then you will always get what you want. And it just works like that. Honestly, to be generous like that, if you help enough people get what they want, eventually you'll get what you want. And I've found that to be true every time. So that's why I make time for people who want to learn or whatever. And so if I help them, and I'm building a business on that, right?
Yeah.
But
if you had the option to go to dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? And where would you take them?
oh man, dead or alive? Dinner, man.
Or lunch?
I'm trying to think, man. Dead or alive? Oh man, that's tough, man.
Yeah, it's not getting easier.
Yeah, this was a tough one, man. Man, I would say, man, that's a tough one, man. I guess I have to. Actually, I would. As of late, I would say maybe Tim Ferriss. Yeah, his name is Tim Ferriss. He is the author of the 4-Hour Work Week. He has a podcast too. I would say I would take him, and I would take him from Dallas.
I think he's out. He lived in California.
Yeah.
So.
So Ferriss, I think I would.
Yeah. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
He's crazy. He's so knowledgeable too.
He's so smart, man.
If you guys don't know him, better check him out. It's crazy. We kind of hit this note, but just to reassure it, just kind of finish it off. What's the one reason or the quick fire for you for people to fail, to think that they can't do it, they can't do what they want to do. What's the number one reason for people to fail? Failure.
Why they fail, or
Yeah.
why they think they're going to fail?
Or why they fail, why they think they're gonna fail.
Man, I think it's tough because most people don't even start anything because of the fear of failure.
Self-doubt.
Yeah, so it's just the actual fear of failing that they think that's bigger than them just trying to do something. And so any successful person, anybody who's has experienced some kind of success, we've all experienced it, but anyone that of magnitude will tell you, the only reason why they're at that level is because of failing over and over and over and over and over and over until eventually they got a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little better. Breakdancing, we do it with drawing. Any kind of skill you have, think about how you started. You did not start where you're at.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it's funny because a lot of people don't look back, right? Because they're too focused on basically doubting themselves. So yeah, it's interesting. Like once you know, if you take a step back, you know, kind of assess your life, where you've been, you know, how you got there. It all makes sense that you know, you just have to kind of start. So
Yeah.
you know, we asked this last question to everybody that comes through here. You know, on a scale from 1 to 10, you know, self-assessment.
Okay.
How much of a freak are you? How weird do you think you are?
Oh man. 11. No, I would no. Okay, so I would say on a scale, like honestly, oh, man, how weird am I? I am pretty darn weird. I would say I would be teetering from a 9 to 10. Like it. The crazy thing is, like, people don't know me well enough to know that how weird I am until you live with me. Like, when nobody lives with me. So, my cat Kosa, she knows exactly how weird I am. But
Shout out to Kosa.
yeah, shout out to Kosa, man. Like, she's 18 years old. She's Instagram star.
Damn, really?
Yeah, she's 18, bro. Yeah.
Jeez.
But I would say like a 9 or 10, only because of my little quirks here and there, and it's only with time that you start to see that side of me. Like.
All right, man. Well, you know, it was definitely a privilege to have you here. Really glad that you came through and make this happen. You know, this is kind of your time to plug anything you got going on, your business, you know, social media, you know, anything as far as if you want to give any advice. We're going to try to have all your links plugged into the descriptions, you know, the show notes below. So yeah, just let them know what you got going on.
Yeah, you know, right now what I do is I teach introverted freelancers, consultants, and creatives how to sell. So if you're trying to start a one-man business, one-woman business, you can check out my content. Everything is pretty much free at mightyintrovert.com. Yeah, sign up for something, and I always respond to all my emails. And yeah, social media is available there and everything like that. And I'm always generous with advice, so pretty much.
All right, man. Well, it was a pleasure to have you. You know, I'm really happy that this went down. And, you know, Ordinary Freaks, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. I thought, you know, there was a lot of good, you know, nuggets of gold in there. So hopefully you guys really enjoyed it. And, you know, see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Deuces.